सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्य कृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रीचिन्मययतीशस्य गुरुं वन्दे तपोवनं तं हिमवद्विभूतिं वै ज्ञानवैराग्यरूपिणं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Hari Om. My humble pranams to you all. So we are all nearly in the beginning of the Prasnopanishad, and so far I will just briefly summarize what we have covered. So we talked about what is Upanishad, what are Vedas, and then what is the Shanti mantra of this particular Veda, which is the Badram Karnedi Shrunuyam Deva. So may the teacher and the student pray together that may we hear what is auspicious, see what is auspicious, and may our actions be also auspicious. And they invoked the blessings of all the divine forces. And then after that, they prayed for Shanti, and then the Upanishad was introduced, that there were 6 students who were all named. We won't name them, but there were 6 students who had already done a lot of upasanas, had studied the Vedas, had even had darshan of Bhagwan. So they had done all the apara vidya and also the upasanas and karma yoga, service, all that, but they did not have the final understanding, the final enlightenment, or the final oneness with that supreme reality. And so they approached the teacher, and it is said that Brahma Veshanaya, to know who is this Brahman. And for that, they approached the great Rishi, Pippalada Rishi. We have talked about his life. And there were 6 students, and the 6th one asked the first question, and his student's name was Kabandhi Katyayana. And he said, Bhagwan, kuto hava ima praja prajayanta iti. From where has this praja come? And when he says praja come, that means this world that I am perceiving, which shows us the level of the student where he still thinks this world is real and whatever I experience is reality. I think all of you were just chanting the 3 Upanishad, and it was so similar because there also the students thinks first the Annamaya Kosha is real, then Pranamaya, then Manomaya, then Vijnanmaya, then Anandamaya. slowly the student is becoming subtler and subtler. You could see that in the Taittiriya Upanishad, which you beautifully chanted. And there also it was that tapo tapyata, the tapas was done. And here also we will see that it is because of tapas that this whole universe came out. So now the student is there and Prajapati is answering his question. That was question number 4. So this we already chanted last week. So I'll just chant it and you can all keep it mute and chant, and then we'll do the word by word meaning. Tasmai sahovacha prajakamo vai prajapatihi satapo tapyata satapas taptva samithunum upadyate rain cha pranam chetyaitau me bahudha praja karishyata iti. So this teacher answers tasmai to the student, that is the 4th case, tasmai for the student, to the student. Sa here refers to the teacher. Ha means indeed, very clearly he said. Uvacha means he said. Uvacha means long time ago. That's why even in Bhagavad Gita we say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Uvacha means which happened many years ago, thousands of years ago. So what did the teacher say? Praja Kamo Vai Prajapatihi. Prajapati, he is Brahmaji, the creator. Praja Kamo, Praja Kamaha, he had the desire to create. So you say God also had desire. We thought God is desireless. So we'll explain what is God's desire or what is Brahmaji's desire. Vai means indeed. And what did Brahmaji do? Sa tapo tapyata. We just heard also in the Taittiriya Upanishad. He did tapas. Tapo tapyata. What is this tapa? We will talk about. And sa tapas taptva. Having done tapas, having done this tapas, sa mithunam upadayate. Mithunam means pair. Upadayate means he created the pair. Prajapati created the pair. And what is the pair? Rai and cha pranam. So Rai and pranam. Cha etau. So these two were created by the Prajapati, by the creator. And what did he say? May bahudha prajaya, may lots of my praja karishyata. May these two create all kinds of praja. So the first point that Gurudev makes in his commentary is that the world is in the mind. So how can you say the world is in the mind? I see it outside. So there are several arguments why this world is in the mind, it's not outside. First of all, the world is in the mind because when we go to sleep, the world folds itself, right? When I'm in deep sleep, I don't experience anything. I don't see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think anything. And when I wake up, the world manifests. So that is one argument. The world is in the mind. You said, no, I don't believe that. The world is still there. What do you mean it is in the mind? The second argument is that each one of us creates our own world. Like as a physician, I create the world of physicians where I deal with other physicians, nurses, patients, hospitals, pharmacies. So that is my physician's world. A pharmacist has his own world of medicines, drugs. Accountant has an accountant's world where they deal with numbers and taxes. Housewife creates her own world with family and children and husband. So each one of us creates our own world, our own limited world, and that is all I deal with. Maybe an accountant may also play tennis on the weekend. So there is an accountant's world, and then he creates a tennis world where he plays tennis, hangs out with tennis players. The third argument why world is in the mind is that when I'm experiencing sorrow, when I'm in a sorrowful state, the whole world looks sad. You see it raining, and the man says, "Look, even the heavens are crying because I am sad." On the other hand, if his daughter is getting married and he's happy, he'll say, "Wow, look at even the rain gods are blessing my daughter." The same rain, one person interprets it as joy, one person interprets it as sorrow. So they say, no, you're saying when I go to sleep, my world folds, but the total world is still there. My house is still there, the sky is still there, the moon is still there. How can you say the world is in the mind? They say that there is the individual mind and the total mind. The total mind is called Hiranya Garbha, which is Prajapati, which is the creator, which is Brahmaji. So just as I create my world in my mind, the Prajapati creates the total world in the total mind. So the total mind is an expression of all of us. All of us together constitute the individual minds. When added up, the minds of the animals and the birds and the plants and the fish and all their minds, humans added together, and the devas and all makes the total cosmic mind, which is called Hiranya Garbha. And this creation is said to be in the mind of the creator. Just as example we can give of the dream, that when I am in sleep and then as I'm about to wake up, I dream. And in the dream, I create everything. I create a forest, and then I create a lion that is chasing me, and then there is a mountain. So char and achara, both I create, right? I create the mountain, which is not moving. I create the forest, which is growing, the lion, which is chasing me. I myself am running and climbing the tree. So chara and achara, all I create in my mind. Same way the Prajapati, the creator, creates this world of moving and unmoving, which is living and insentient and insentient in his mind. And that is how creation happens. And the goal of spirituality is to transcend the mind to that which is beyond the mind. And we'll talk about that throughout this Upanishad. Even all through these questions, the teacher will take the student to the highest. And then it says, Praja Kamo Vai Prajapatihi. So he says, how can Prajapati have a desire? How can God have desire? Don't we say he's desireless? So it is said that each one of us has lot of vasanas, all, whether animals, plants, they all have desires. Plant has a desire to grow. Lion has a desire to eat a deer. We have a desire to buy a sari or buy a house or buy a car. So all these desires mixed together constitute vasanas and the desires. And it is said the sum total of all vasanas is Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. Just as I create in my mind certain thoughts, like I have a happy thought, and then the happy thought dies, then the sorrowful thought arises, sorrowful dies. So similarly, this Brahman, this total consciousness, plays three different roles. Working through the total vasanas, he is called as Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. And at the individual level, it is called Prajna. Prajna is at the individual level, at the total level is Ishvara. And then the next, beyond the vasanas, is the mind and intellect. So the individual mind and intellect is called Tejas, which is the subtle body. And in the totality, it is called Hiranya Garbha or Prajapati, who is the creator of this universe. So at the causal level, at the subtle level, and then at the gross level, My individual body is called Vishwa. We say, oh, Vishwa means the world, but in this case, Vishwa means my world. My world, my body is called Vishwa, and all the gross bodies together are called Virat. So there is this totality, this oneness, and that one has to understand. And it is at multiple levels. At the gross level, you and I, we are all made of 5 elements. Everything is made of 5 elements, all plants, birds, animals, fish, even rocks, even stones. At the subtle level, we are part of the total mind. We are all connected with that total mind. That's why some people can read others' minds, those who are evolved, or they can, like a mother can sense when something is wrong is happening to my child because she is connected. Then at the causal level, not casual, but causal. So remember, don't call it casual body. It is causal body. That's a very common mistake people make. So at the causal level, we are all connected at the cause, which is the Ishvara, and then beyond that is Brahman, the consciousness. But how did Brahmaji get desire? So they say that when pralaya happens, when the whole universe, and this is not the first creation. Creation is anadi. Gurudev says in his commentary, it is happened at a zero time, when there was not even time, because time itself is a creation of the creator. So when there was nothing, when the creator alone was, and how did the creator appear? So it is said in the Puranas that in Vishnu Bhagwan's navel, there arose a lotus. And on the top of the lotus was Brahmaji. And he looked around and he was confused. He didn't know where he was. This is mentioned in the Puranas. And he heard a voice which 3 times said, Tapaha, Tapaha, Tapaha. So do tapas, do tapas, do tapas. What is this tapas? We'll talk about. But Brahmaji manifests the total vasanas. See, just as Brahmaji appeared at a particular time, there is a particular Brahmaji for this particular creation. All this entire creation, all the 14 worlds, there is one Brahmaji. When this creation, after several billion years, that is 4.2 billion years, that is one day of Brahmaji, when it goes into Mahapralaya, each one of us perishing is our pralaya. But when the total creation goes into Mahapralaya, then there is this Brahmaji also, his day ends, and there is a night of Brahmaji, which is another 4.2 billion years, and which is 1,000 kalpas. Each kalpa is Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug. That is one kalpa, and 1,000 such kalpas make one day of Brahmaji and then one night. So when this total universe goes into pralaya, you and I, suppose we are alive at that time, and pralaya happens. But our unmanifest vasanas don't go away. It's not that at the time of death, my vasanas go away. My vasanas are very much alive and they take a new birth. So similarly, all beings, when they go into pralaya, their vasanas remain unmanifest. And after 4.2 billion years, when creation starts again, then these jivas all start again. So it is not that after pralaya, this universe will end. Everything will go into unmanifest. Just as when I go to sleep, Gurudev says a saint and a sinner both are sleeping. When they wake up, a saint is a saint and a sinner is a sinner. It's not that sinner suddenly starts doing virtuous deeds. So similarly, the vasanas that are unmanifest, the desires that are unmanifest, Brahmaji, the creator, creates the world which is the sum total of all the desires. So it's not that Bhagwan suddenly decided, okay, I'm going to create the world, I'm going to make you suffer, and I'm going to make you happy. No, it's not that he created for his joy and we are suffering. No, he created what we gave him, the blueprint. So we say, I am the architect, Bhagwan is only the contractor. He does not decide my world, what world I have, not only in this life, but in future lives. I decide based on my vasanas and based on my karmas. So Bhagwan is only a karma phaladata. So if anything bad is happening, please don't blame him. And if anything good is happening, again, that you can thank him, but ultimately it is my own karmas. So nobody is giving us joy, nobody is giving us sorrow, only I am giving it to myself. So we already talked about the 4 levels of the God and consciousness. So we are ajnanam, right? Vasanas, sum total of vasanas, we are all ajnanam. What is vasana? It is ajnanam. So sum total of vasanas, Ishvara must be maha ajnani, right? Because he is the sum total. No, he is not. He is maha ajnani. He is the all-knowing, omniscient, but he is helplessly, Gurudev says, has no choice. He is just making the world that we have ordered. Just as when you have an empty plot of land, you tell the contractor, you bring plans from the architect, contractor has to build. He doesn't have a choice. You say put bedroom here, he can't say I'm going to put bedroom in the south. You do what he. So that is the creation is nothing but an expression of desires unmanifest. Then he says, tapo taptva, having done tapas, he created this world. So people think tapas means standing on one leg for 25 years and the heat and cold. No, tapas, Gurudev explains very beautifully, and it is explained by Shankaracharya ji in his Bhashya. Tapas is intense mental activity by which he visualized the universe. He think, he planned, and then he visualized. Just as when I go to, say, medical school or engineering or law school, I visualize, okay, I'm going to become a doctor, or I'm going to become a lawyer or engineer. I visualize, then I plan, I go to a particular college, I study, and so on. So intense visualization and planning is tapas. And that, when it is carried out, is this creation. So tapas is nothing but sankalpa of the creator, which is the sankalpa of all of us. It is not his own sankalpa, but it is the sankalpa of all of us. That's why Gurudev, one of his 108 names is Om Shri Satya Sankalpaya Namaha. I prostrate to Puja Gurudev, because of whose sankalpa this entire Chinmaya mission came into being. So this Prajapati, why did he get the name Prajapati? Prakarshena Kriyate iti Prajapati. One who creates perfectly is called Prajapati, and that is what he did, and that is who Prajapati is. And then it is said he did 2 things. Raim cha pranam cha et yaito. He created those 2. So when you ask how did creation start, so first thing people say Adam and Eve, Manu and Shatrupa. It is not. Prana and Rai is not Adam and Eve. Oh, then they say it is matter and energy. You ask science, you ask Einstein, he said what it is? E equals mc squared. Everything is energy. And actually, that is a higher level of thinking. From matter and energy, we say everything is energy. E equals mc squared. Matter times the speed of light squared is energy, and that is. So science has progressed from everything is matter to everything is energy. But energy does not have life of its own. Like electricity, we say electricity and bulb, that's the example they give, energy and matter. Does electricity decide when to turn the bulb on? No, energy doesn't have a free will. I press the button and electricity helplessly goes to the bulb. Electricity cannot say, aaj mera mood nahi hai. I don't want to light the bulb. I'm tired. I want to take a nap. No, electricity cannot say, I'm going to take a nap. When you press the button, it has to go. Or magnetic energy cannot say, I'm tired of attracting iron. Give me something else, give me something better. No, magnetic energy, gravitation, all these energies have no life of their own. So we cannot say prana and rai is energy and matter. Rai is matter, but prana is not only energy, but it is the sentient and living principle which enlivens matter. So prana is subtler than energy, it is higher than energy. So together, they prana and rai, that is prana is energy plus sentiency, and rai is matter. And what kind of matter we'll talk in the next shloka. And they say that all problems occur only at the worldly level. They do not occur at the level of the totality. The problems that you and I face are at the worldly level. This reminds me of a story. So this man climbed up the mountain, and there was this wise man sitting on top of the hill, and he goes and prostrates. Oh, wise man on top of the hill. So he says, what? He had just got out of meditation. He says, well, how can I help you, son? He says, sir, there are so many problems in the world. There is war going on, and there is so much violence, and there is global warming, and there is inflation, and economy is bad. And when will all these problems end? So he says, son, don't worry, this too shall pass. He said, oh, this too shall pass. Thank you, Guru. Thank you. He bows down and touches his feet as he's living. He says, yeah, this too shall pass, but then you'll have new problems. So problems are always there. It's just one problem ends and another one starts. When do I end with all problems? Not with death, with enlightenment. When you become one with that, that is the only way for problems to end. And for that, we need tapas. And in our case, tapas is single-pointed, steadfast, introvert. See, these three things I have to do. I have to be single-pointed. I have to be steadfast in my goal, and I have to look inwards, because we look for all solutions outside. Solution is only inside, and that is the method of tapas. So what is tapas? First of all, I have to realize that that is my goal, and then I have to be steadfast, single-pointed, and go inward. So this is mantra number 4. We just finished. So we'll chant mantra number 5. Lata, would you like to chant mantra number 5?
Yeah, okay. I'll follow you.
Adityo havai pranaha.
Adityo havai pranaha.
Raireva chandrama.
Raireva chandrama.
Rairva etat sarvam.
Rairva etat sarvam.
Yanmurtam cha murtam cha.
Yamurtan Yamurta cha murtancha.
Tasman murti revaraihi.
Tasman murti revaraihi.
Okay, so Adityo havai pranaha. So he created prana and rai. So what is prana? So here the Rishi explains to us Aditya. Aditya is one of the names of sun. Ha means indeed, vai means really, verily. Aditya is prana. Ha. So sun is prana. Rai eva chandrama. Chandrama alone is rai. So rai we studied as matter. Prana is the sentient and living principle. So the sun is prana and the moon is rai. So it is symbolic. It is representative of the totality. Total prana is Aditya and total rai is Chandrama. And rai va etat sarvam. So all this that we see, that I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, is nothing but Rai, matter. Evam, etat sarvam, that alone is Rai. He said, but there are other things, what I can see, but how about my emotions, my ideas, my thoughts, my vasanas? So the Rishi says, Yat Murtam cha Amurtam cha, that which is form and that which is formless. Cha means and. So form and formless are both Rai. Not only the visible world is Rai, but all my thoughts are Rai, my emotions are Rai, my desires are Rai. So form and formless are all matter. Of course, there is consciousness which is beyond, but up to the level of desires, everything is Rai, everything is created, because my desires also I create, right? I have a desire, like today we had a desire to study Upanishad, so we gathered. So whatever activities are done, they are done out of desire. That's why they say desire becomes thought, becomes action. And then through action, I create more desire. So that's how the cycle is of creating more and more vasanas, more and more desires, and enlightenment is to get out of that. So Murtam and Amurtam, form and formless, Tasmat Murtir Eva Raihi. So this Rai is all forms, form and formless. So Etat, so this world that we are seeing of matter and the formless, the subtle thoughts and emotions and vasanas are all Rai. So when they say the sun and the moon, the sun represents the subtle matter and moon represents gross. Sun represents prana, moon represents this visible world and the world of emotions and thoughts. But we say, but the sun is a ball of fire and the moon is nothing. Armstrong went on the moon, it is just rock. So here, when the Rishi mentions sun and moon, he's talking about the devatas, because there are celestial powers that control the sun, that control the moon, that control the wind, Vayu Devta, Varun Devta, Indra Devta. In the Shanti mantra, they are all invoked. So the sun represents dynamism, represents activity, represents prana, which in the Eastern philosophy is called chi. Chi is the prana that is mentioned in Buddhist philosophy and all. And monks who have this chi can do amazing things. They can twist their body and they can make things move. They can fly. So that is the chi, that is the sun, that is Aditya. And what is the moon? The moon is the nourisher. We just chanted, what is it? Gama Vishya cha Bhutani Dharayam Yaham Ojasa. Last night we chanted Pushnami Chaushadi Sarvaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. So he says, I enter the sun and I nourish everything. I enter the ground with my ojas. I create all the plants. And then as the moon, I nourish the plants. Pushnami, all the grains and everything are nourished. So Prajapati himself became both. What does that mean when we say Prajapati became the sun and the moon and the entire creation? Means everything is nothing but Prajapati, just as effect is in the cause. Example we give all the time, just as mud becomes all the pots are nothing but mud. So since you and I came out from Prajapati, we all are essentially divine. That is our true nature. So what we are seeing is Samashti and Vyashti. Vyashti means the individual, Samashti means the totality, and they are one. Because our origin is one, just as macro and micro, just as from the ocean, many waves arise. But waves don't make up the whole ocean. The ocean is so much deeper. So similarly, you and I are like the waves, but the Lord, the Creator, has much, much more than all the worlds you can see. That's why even in Purushuktam, Tripad Urdhva Udayat Purushaha Pados Yeha Bhavat Punah. So just a quarter of that became this Vishwa. 3/4 is not even known to us. So that is what they are saying, that at the individual level, the body represents Rai, and the mind and intellect vasanas and the enlivening factor represents prana. And the mind and body are very clearly connected. We talked about in Sunday class also. And Gurudev mentions that whatever I eat becomes food. So if I eat healthy, if I eat, then, my mind is healthy. If I eat sattvic food, if I, take care of my body and all that, then my mind is nourished. And at the same time, the mind determines what the body will happen. Like if I'm in a sattvic mood, I'll eat sattvic food. If I'm in a rajasic mood, I'll say bring some hot peppers, samosas. And if I'm in a tamasic mood, I'll say, come on, bring something so I can forget. I want to, get. So depending on the mood, sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, and also the mind and body are connected, because we have seen that immunity is also affected by the mind. And a person who is chronically angry and upset will get a lot of autoimmune problems. So the mind and the body are very intimately connected. So we have to try to keep the mind happy and cheerful and keep the mind connected with God. That is the best way to purify the mind. So Ishvara is not individual, it is Sarvatma. All Sarvatma Bhava. One should have Sarvatma Bhava, that one consciousness has appeared as all of them. And all the differences we see is because of differences in subtlety. Prana is subtler, than the vasanas, the thoughts, then the gross body. And in the gross body also, we see different levels of grossness or subtlety. So like the breath is subtler than the gross body. So like that, from the gross body, then the physiological, then the mind and intellect. So it is not only E equals mc squared, but if you see in quantum physics, they are trying to go to the origin, the substratum. So science also is coming to the similar conclusions which our rishis told thousands of years ago. E equals mc squared. They knew that. And they didn't even bother to give importance. They said that's a very minor thing. My main goal is to reach Brahman. Energy, matter, kuch nahi hai. They already knew that, which Einstein just discovered, 60, 70 years ago. It's written in our Upanishads in plain Sanskrit, very clearly written. So the idea is that to go beyond that, I have to know my true nature. That's why they say Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. To know Brahman is to become Brahman, because all of us are actually Brahman, all of us are divine, and this universe is a manifestation. That's why in Janak Maharaj in Ashtavakra Gita said, I alone pervade this entire universe, which Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagada vyakta murtina. And the world has no reality. It is a dream in the mind of the creator, just as my own dream. So we say, no. How can you say world is unreal? World is real. And we talked about on Sunday, but some of you don't come to the Sunday class. So very briefly, I'll mention, if anybody tells you the world is real, give them 3 arguments why the world is not real. One is Brahman is all pervading. Everything is Brahman. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. You just chanted that. So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. You just chanted that in Taittiriya Upanishad. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. If everything is Brahman, but if I see something that is not looking like Brahman, it has to be a projection. Because Brahman, if Brahman is real, then the world cannot be real. There cannot be two reals in one place. Like chawal and rocks, people they put rocks and chawal to make it to sell more. Rocks and chawal cannot be one, right? When you cooking the chawal, you take out the rocks, the stones. So similarly, but Brahman and myself are mixed up, but Brahman cannot be mixed. Brahman is untainted, unblemished. So this world has to be an illusion. That's number one. Number two argument is that the Vedas say that this world is an illusion. Whether you look at Prasnopanishad, Upanishad, everywhere. So if you say the world is real, then you are saying Vedas are untrue. They are not telling the truth. And third thing, if you say world is unreal, then you are saying Bhagavan Krishna didn't tell the truth in the Bhagavad Gita, because he says in the 9th chapter, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagada vyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshva vasthitaha nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogam aishwaram. So he says, I pervade this whole universe. The universe is in me. I am not in the universe, he says. In the next line, he says, actually, the universe is not in me because universe is an illusion. So with these three arguments that Brahman is all pervading, the Vedas say the world is unreal, and Bhagavan Krishna himself said the world is unreal. So next time somebody tells you the world is real, we have three solid arguments. So keep them written on a note card so you can show him. So the point is that this is the creation of Rai and Pranam. Now we can do one more mantra. We have time. It is not very long. What mantra number 5? Jagrati, can you chant? Number 5. Aditya Havai Pran. Oh, we already did that. Oh, sorry, number 6. Athaditya Udayan. You can unmute.
Athaditya Udayan
Tat Prachim Disham Pravishati.
Tyach Prati Disam Pravishati
Tena Prachyan Pranan.
Tena Pachyan Pranan
Rashmishu Sannidhate.
Rasmishu Sannitate
Yadakshinam Yat Pratichim.
Yadakshinam Yat Pratichim
Yad Udichim. Yad Udichi.
Yaduditichim
Yadado Yadurdvam.
Yadado Yadutvam
Yadantaradisho.
Yadantaradisho
Yat Sarvam Prakashayati.
Yatsarvam Prakashayati
Tena Sarvan.
Tena Sarvan
Pranan Rashmishu.
Pranan Rashmishu
Sannidhate.
Sannittate.
Okay, so Atha Aditya Udayan. Udayan means having risen. Actually, the sun does not rise, and the Rishi will tell in the mantra. But for us, this world appears to be rising, just as the student asked, how did this creation come about? He thought creation is real. So Rishi already told him that. But here he says the sun, and he's going to talk a little bit about the sun here and then about the moon subsequently. So Yatha Aditya Udayan. Udayan Yat, having risen, Prachim Disham Pravishati. As though enters, Pravishati enters, Prachim Disham, in the eastern Disha, in the eastern direction. Tena Prachyan, having entered, Pranan Rashmishu Sannidhate. So all the pranas, by his energy, by the energy of the sun, Sannidhate, it thrills or enlivens all pranas. And we know that as soon as the sun rises, Gurudev also says in his commentary, people are ready to go to work. Okay, morning time, now let me get ready, let me go to work, let me start. And when the moon comes, that's when we say, okay, I'm tired, now it's time to go to bed, time to sleep, and so on. So it thrills all the pranas having appeared in the eastern direction. It is not risen, but having manifested. And it is said very clearly in the Upanishads that it is the earth that rotates. The sun does not rotate. And this again, thousands of years ago, our rishis knew that. And even Shankaracharya ji in his Bhashya talks very clearly, which was in the 7th century, much before Galileo and Copernicus and all. So having appeared in the eastern direction, not risen, but appeared, then what does it do? Yad Dakshinam, the south, Yad Pratichim, the west, Yad Udichim cha. So having appeared, it enlivens both the western, the northern, and the southern world. Yad Adhaha, below, Yad Urdhvam, below and above, Yad Antara Dishaha, so even the space in between. So above, below, the space, east, west, north, south, everything is enlivened. Yat Sarvam Prakashayati, it illumines all, and Tena Sarvan, by that illumination, the sun, Pranan, all pranas of all beings, animals, birds, plants, fish, humans, Rashmi Shu, by it rays, it enlivens, Sannidhate, it enlivens. So it is the illumination of the sun which creates activity, which is Chetana, which is the life principle, which is consciousness, and everything becomes visible. So what they say that we should live our life in tune with the sun. So the commentary I was reading, Swamiji says beautifully, he says, one should wake up before 5 o'clock. 3 to 5 is the Brahma Muhurta. Wake up and then welcome the sun, because Surya Bhagwan is coming as a guest. Don't think, Arey, Surya aa gaya, it's so hot, it's making me wake up. No, you have to wake up before the sun and welcome, just as you welcome a guest. So you welcome Bhagwan, open the windows, and then chant the Gayatri Mantra, Hiranmaya Patrena and all. So because all our metabolism, and this again, BMR, rishis thousands of years knew that that all our metabolism is because of the sun. And what we are doing is we are going from the embrace of the sun to the lap of the moon. And Gurudev says it very beautifully that the earth as it revolves and the sun is watching. And so as the earth revolves, part of it is going in the sunlight, and then part of it is going in darkness. So from the embrace of the sun to the lap of the moon. Yeah. And that is explained very beautifully in this mantra. And I have to understand this oneness at the physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual, all levels. And I'll end with a short story by Puja Gurudev. So there was this man who had, in a hurry, not able to buy a train ticket. And he jumped on the train as it was taking off, leaving the station. And he said, I'm going to get in trouble if the TT comes. And so the ticket checker comes, ticket. So this man doesn't know what to do, but he was a Malayali. So he tells his friend in Malayali, I didn't buy the ticket and I'm going to be in trouble. Conductor was Malayali too. He said, oh, you are Malayali? He says, yeah, I am Malayali too. He says, from which town? Oh, from this town. From which street? So they happen to be from the same street, in the same town. You don't need to buy a ticket. He moves on. So when you see the oneness, then, and that is also what we do is we associate with the small. He's also my caste or my community, or he's my language or my state or my culture. So they say through this Upanishad, go to the totality. The total Rai, total matter and total prana is one, and that is the essence of this, what we have studied today. That instead of limiting myself to me, myself and I, me, my family and I, but widen our circle of influence. And the more you widen, the more unselfish. Widen means you become unselfish. You share with others, you give others and see the oneness. So that is the essence of today's teachings, that Prajapati became himself Prana and Rai, which is sun and moon. And we talked about the sun, how it illumines all activity and everything comes from the sun, and the oneness of the totality. We saw that at the physical level, at the level of pranas, at the level of subtle body and causal body, we are one. Of course, as Brahman, it is one alone. So I'll end here. We have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions or comments, anything you would like to add from the teachings.
Anilji, I couldn't get this gross body I, but causal body and
yeah, so the gross body
I
is Vishwa. My body is called Vishwa. And the total gross body is called Virat.
Could you repeat again, please?
Vishwa. Vishwa is my body. Vishwa.
Individual body.
Individual body is Vishwa. Total gross bodies are called Virat. And then at the subtle body, mine is called Tejas. The individual body is called Tejas. And the total is called Hiranya Garbha.
Or
Hiranya Garbha or Prajapati. That is the total subtle body. And then you got that?
Yes.
And then at the causal level, the individual causal body is Prajna, Prajna, and the total causal body is Ishvara.
Okay. Thank you.
Prajna and Ishvara, and then beyond that is Brahman. So that one Brahman plays all the roles, plays the role of Ishvara, Hiranya Garbha, Vishwa, Virat. Yes. Yeah, the individual conditioning. Yes, Hansa, go ahead.
Sending a chart to the whole group, which tells all these different parts. So I'm going to send it away to the group.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and anybody can access this Gokul
So,
Devi group.
if you are in the group, you can access it.
Yeah, if you're not in a group, let us know, then we can put you on that group. Anybody is not on Gokul Devi group? Yeah, I'll put it on the Bhagavad Gita group then also. If you send me, then everybody will get.
I did send one.
Yeah, please send it. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Lata, go ahead, please.
What about the geographical area where they do not get sun for few months? What happens to them?
No, actually, in those areas, they do have sun for 2 hours. I have been to Iceland, where my friend lives. And in the winter, they get sun for 2 hours, only from 12 noon to 2 p.m. And then in the winter, it is only dark for 2 hours, from midnight 12 to 2. And I'm sorry, in the summer, we were there in the summer,
we were there in the summer.
and even at midnight, there was bright light. So it only gets dark from midnight to 2 p.m. So they get 2 hours of darkness in the summer and 2 hours of light in the winter. So they have a lot of depression. Actually, my friend was telling that a lot of depression they see in the winter months, because you only see sunlight for 2 hours, and people get seriously depressed because they live in darkness for 22 hours. I don't know why people live there. But there's a good friend of mine who was my classmate. I visited him in Iceland, and he's retired now. He lives in Pune, and he told me that he says he used to see a lot of depression because the people don't get exposed to sunlight, and sunlight is what gives vitality, what gives. So there are people who are like Eskimos and all. I'm sure in winter they have serious That's why alcoholism is very common in Eskimos, probably for the same reason. Because
Okay.
if you never see the sun, then you get depressed.
And one more question.
Yeah.
There is a name, it says Mati. Mati is a name for the mind.
Yes.
Did you read up that part? And
Yeah.
can you explain a little more, please?
Mati is also mind.
Mati is mind, and or some
Also
people use it as
intellect.
mind and intellect.
Both.
Mana
Right.
mati chittam lyai. You know, Ramchandra ji says to Lakshman ji when he's giving him the Lakshman Gita, Suno bhutat mana mati chitta lyai. So mana, mati and chit. Mana is mind, mati is intellect,
They
and chit
interchange.
is memory in
Right.
that particular context. But mati many times is used for both mind and intellect. But
Okay.
in that, in
Mind
that-
and intellect, they are one.
they are actually
instrument.
one. Actually,
So there
there
are two
are
aspects.
four aspects, you
Yeah,
know, of
four
the
aspects, but-
antakarana is four aspects. Mana,
Mhm.
buddhi, chitta, ahankar. And we make these compartments. Oh, this is mind, this is intellect, this is memory, and this is ego. But they say it's like four walls of a room. You know, they are all one, but we have made four. And the rishis use that for us to understand that there is a seat of emotions, which is
Mhm.
mind. There is a seat of ideas, which is intellect. And there is memory, where all these are
See, mind
stored.
is not only like in the brain, it is all through the gross body.
All
Because it's
through.
subtler than the gross. It
Yes.
goes beyond the gross body because our mind can reach India at this moment.
Right.
So mind is subtler than the gross body. So that
Absolutely.
is so why we have to know what mind is.
Mind is right. So mind is not only brain, but mind is subtler than the gross body. Like right now, you can think of your family, people in India, right? Or you can think about space and the furthest star. So the mind and intellect, when it's stored, is called memory. And this idea of I, this ego, is all part of antakarna, which are four aspects. So four
Subtle body.
sides of the room, you can say, four
Okay.
walls. Which is
And
the-
one more thing. How did the term Rai come for the matter? Where is that Rai term come from?
that I won't know that. That's in the Upanishad where it
He
came
used
from.
the word.
It has been used. Rai
Has
means
that been
matter.
used in other Upanishads, or have we heard
Yeah.
that in other
I
scriptures?
I have not heard it before, but Rai means
Okay.
matter. Rai means
Right.
matter, and Prana means the
Each
sentient.
Upanishad has a
and
different way of
That's
explaining.
the
it.
terminology, but exactly what is the meaning, we can look it up. I'm sure if you go to the Sanskrit dictionary, you put Rai, it will tell you it is matter, manifest and unmanifest matter, gross
Right.
and subtle matter together make Rai.
Right. Thank you.
And
Did you say
matter is
mind?
nothing but,
Kusum, एक minute. Yeah, Kusum, go ahead.
I think Jayashree is saying something else after.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Oh, I have some notes by Vimalji, and he says the Rai is like he says these are the two things, Rai and Prana, but they are just not real existence. And he says it's just like when we have real pain and opposing to that no pain. So these are like given the pair, which is Rai and Prana. And then he explains the difference between Rai and Prana, that Rai is the enjoyer and Prana is the enjoyment. Rai is with the form and inert, and Prana is formless and sentient. And then Rai, of course, compared to moon, and the Prana is sun. But important is not Rai and Prana, but the most important is inherent entity that came out of Ravi and Prana. It is example he gives that ice and steam. There's no difference between ice and steam. It's only the water. Same way Rai and Prana, the substratum is more important. The Para knowledge will lead to Brahma Vidya. And so this is how he explains that.
Thank you. Yeah. This
like
this
Sat and
food and
Chit and
eater
others.
and food I didn't cover today, but that we will be covering, where Prana is the eater and Rai is the Annam. So Atta and Annam.
It could be Sat and Chit.
No. It is Atta and Annam, the eater and the enjoyer and the enjoyed. But that will come in the subsequent shlokas. So, but thank you, Kusum, for bringing that. Yeah, that is part of this Upanishad.
And
So the
also last
enjoyer
week
and
we
the
had a question
bhokta and the-
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Last week we had a question, why these 6 questions, and the sixth student is asking first. Bimalji said there are 6 questions. The first 3 are Aparavidya and the last 3 are Paravidya. So he starts where we start. We know this world as what
Aparavidya.
created and all that. So it starts to that level and it goes to the highest level. Yet when they say the 6 students, the highest was the first one, and the gross one who asked the question about creation was the 6th one. So from the highest standard, it's the Brahman, and then it goes down this way. But when we are learning it, it goes from gross to the subtle. That's why those are the questions asked and why students are listed like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, we had mentioned that in the introduction that the first 3 refers to the gross and the physiological functions, and then Om Upasana, and then the nature of Brahman. So same thing. Thank you. I think we can end unless, and if somebody wants to stay back for questions, others
Yes,
can
sir.
log out. We'll do the closing prayer. It's already 1:32. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Thank you.
My privilege
Thank you.
to get to study this Upanishad is such a blessing. Thank you so much.